Well, hello there, watching the press preview, a first look at what is on the front pages. Time then to see what's making the headlines with the Deputy Editor of Conservative Home, Henry Hill, and the Associate Director at the Centre for Public Policy at the University of Glasgow, Kezia Dugdale. Welcome and great to see both of you. So as ever, let's take a look at the front pages, starting with the Daily Telegraph, which leads on the King, who's cancelled his public engagements for tomorrow after he experienced side effects from his cancer treatment. King suffers a bump in the road during cancer care. That is the headline for the Daily Express. And same headline for the Mirror, King cancer bump in the road. The Daily Mail also features the monarch, adding the 76-year-old regretfully had to cancel engagements in Birmingham tomorrow. Well, The Sun calls it Charles's hospital drama on their front page. While The Times includes the statement from Buckingham Palace, which says King Charles has returned home now and is recovering. In other news, The Guardian says ministers may have to target pensioners and wealthier taxpayers in the autumn budget, with senior government figures voicing fears that the brutal welfare changes will still not go far enough to tackle rising costs. The Metro leads on how military chiefs from the UK and France will head to Kyiv within days to form a plan on how to respond and deter Russian invading in the future once peace is agreed. Same story for the Eye, which adds that Donald Trump is going after Ukraine's natural resources and Russia's gas pipeline operations. The Financial Times says the billionaire steel tycoon Lakshmi Mittal is preparing to leave the UK in response to the government's crackdown on non-dom residents, making him one of the wealthiest entrepreneurs to move to because of the tax reforms. And the Daily Star claims we need to stock up on toilet roll and baked beans in case of an emergency. That was the theme from the European Union, in fact, only yesterday. So let's talk more then with Henry and with Kezia. Hasty rewrite, Kezia, for a number of newspapers, including the Daily Express, trying to get the news in, this update really on the King's health, which probably comes as a shock to some people because he'd seemed, out and about and so well.
I think a lot of people could be forgiven for forgetting that the King was still receiving treatment for cancer, given he's returned to what feels like full duty in recent weeks and months. What we've heard today is that he felt unwell this afternoon after whatever type of treatment he's undergoing. Of course, we don't have that level of detail because it's an intensely private matter and he deserves the same privacy that the rest of the country does in these matters. But he's been left feeling unwell. He had to cancel events this afternoon and his full schedule tomorrow has been wiped in order to help him recover.
Yes, unspecified cancer and unspecified treatment, really, because they know that the impact of his cancer news will impact more people if they don't specify the type of cancer. It's interesting, isn't it, really? But, everyone wishing him well. The newspapers, as I said, changing their story quite quickly, including the Daily Telegraph, King in hospital for cancer side effects, hospitalised for a bit, back home, and deeply sending his, apologies, really, to all those people he disappoints whenever he cancels engagements, because he's been very busy, hasn't he? Stoically very busy.
Well, I mean, one of the things about the King is that you get the impression he really, really does like all of the royal duties, the constantly seeing people, because it is a really incredible schedule when you think about it, especially we sometimes, I think, take for granted with the younger royals because we think, they get to go to a nice opera opening or whatever. But when you're a 76-year-old man who has, had might be quite intensive medical treatment, and you're still just driving around the country all the time, meeting people, having to be on in the sort of showbiz terms. It is absolutely incredible that he's still doing it. So I'm sure that he will be back on the road soon. It doesn't sound like it's anything particularly serious, and we wish him all the best.
Yes, indeed so. And since returning to public duties back in Easter last year, he has travelled the globe, hasn't he? Australia, Samoa, the heads of government, the Commonwealth, CHOGM, as it's known. And on a visit to Ireland last week, the King shared advice with fellow cancer patients. And apologies for the language here, it is not mine. Telling them, what's that Winston Churchill saying? Keep buggering on, he said. So there we are. The monarch was visiting the Pharmacy and Pharmacology department at Ulster University when he asked people who were living with cancer whether they were managing to survive the side effects all right. You just have to push on, don't you, he said. So that's been, bravely his attitude to this, really.
I think that will really resonate with anyone who's either experiencing cancer or knows someone who does, that you don't have much choice, actually, other than to put your bravest face on and carry on like the King has described there. Just looking at his schedule for tomorrow, there's some colour across the papers suggesting that in the morning he was supposed to have 3 separate diplomatic meetings and then 4 separate engagements in Birmingham. So that gives you a real flavour for what the King's schedule could look like across a day, why he'll be so disappointed he's had to cancel that, but knowing he's just not well enough to fulfil all of those duties.
Yes, and so much planning goes into these visits, don't they? Daily Mail as well, Charles is forced to cancel a full day of visits, as you put it. King kept in hospital after feeling side effects from his continuing treatment for cancer. And the paper's pointing out, of course, that he's supposed to go off to the Vatican, isn't he? The King and Queen were were this week forced to postpone a visit to the Holy See after medical advice that the Pope would require an extended period of rest and recuperation, so had been due to meet the Pope before his period of hospitalisation. Palace sources stress the King's diary is developed in full consultation with his own medical team at all stages to protect and prioritise his recovery. So, you know, he also trying to get through this treatment. And as you say, everyone wishes him well and will no doubt keep abreast when he's back up and about meeting people. Shall we move on to the economy? So much to talk about here. The Guardian, catching up actually on what some of the newspapers were saying after the spring statement, which is about the fact that there's still not enough money raised, the headwinds are too strong, and what's likely to come in the autumn, Henry.
Yeah, one of the ironies of politicians who complain about the Office of Budget Responsibility, which they do a lot, is that they complain that its predictions are often wrong, and then they make the budget as if they were always exactly right to the decimal point, which is what Rachel Reeves did in the spring statement. All of her spending envelopes are right up to the wire. The OBR is saying, I think she has a 51% chance of hitting one of her targets and a 56% chance of meeting the other one. And so if literally anything goes wrong in the global economy, and there's obviously no reason to think that that might happen for any reason in the next 6 months, then the public finances will take another hit and she will have to come back again. And the problem with all of this is, think about the way that the Conservatives did austerity in 2010, right? 1, they got a mandate for it at the general election. 2, they did it all at once, right? They just, like, all the horrible decisions, they just made them in the first couple of years. The problem with this is they keep having to go back. They keep saying, right, this is it. This is the last set of tax rises. And then they have to do, and they're going to really test their MPs and the public's patience.
Yes, and indeed the headwinds, you know, blew up instantly after the spring statement with the Trump announcement about tariffs, 25% on all cars imported into America, including ours, which is, what, just under a fifth of our goods exports to the States, with significant impact then. On the other hand as well, you've got our steel industry under threat too, you know, just as America's protectionist about its own steel industry. I mean, there's so much buffeting going on at the moment, isn't there, Kezia?
Yeah, so where I slightly disagree with Henry is the immensity of these seismic events that we've experienced. It's not just the size of them, it's the number of them as well. I mean, there really is very little room for Rachel Reeves to manoeuvre. It looks very likely that she is going to have to revisit her predictions before October. I don't think we expected that to happen within days. I think we were expecting that to be within weeks, but something like tariffs coming from the United States can throw all of these numbers completely out of kilter. And she's having a torrid time. This can't be an enjoyable job right now to be Chancellor of the Exchequer, and every day comes with a new twist, a new turn that throws this all about. And the thing about it is, when you get into the detail of the story, you know, some of the changes that have caused her a lot of pain this week, like the cuts to the benefits, that was supposed to be a £5 billion saving. The OBRs, as Henry has described, have now told her it's only going to be 3.4. She's borne the pain of 5 in her own party, though, and has to go and find more again. So day after day, the news gets harder and harder for her. And the Guardian pointing out that, you know, there's going to be a vote on some of these welfare changes. That could get ugly, couldn't it? Yes and no. So I think right now, nobody would expect Labour to lose that vote because their majority is so comfortable. It would really take a really quite epic number of Labour MPs to rebel in order for them to be in any danger of losing that vote. That feels unlikely right now, but it certainly would be the most significant rebellion, number of MPs coming together to vote against something the government have done at this stage in their tenure. Yes. Let's look at a bit more detail, shall we, of the backwash of all of this. So we're going to the Telegraph again. And this is the Chancellor putting a tax grab on savers. The Treasury is concerned that savers are failing to pay the tax they owe on interest. The new proposals will make it easier
for the taxman to take this money directly from pay packets. Perhaps that seems like a good idea, but the point is people should be encouraged to save, otherwise it will be the state that pays for their old age. Isn't that the sort of the balance?
Well, so this is feeding in on something that the government's already been concerned about, which is ISAs.
Yeah.
So they're trying, or they're preparing to try and shift people heavily from cash ISAs, which is, you just put it in there and it accrues interest, to stocks and shares ISAs, because what they're trying to do is shovel money into the British stock market, basically. And now what they're talking about is that people aren't paying the tax on the interest that they're due. Now, the thing about this is, actually David Davis, a Conservative MP, points out, is that often means that HMRC has made a mistake, right, and failed to collect it. And the problem with correcting that in this way, we don't have all the detail, is that if you do it the wrong way, it means that basically HMRC can come back to you or me or anyone else a few years down the line and say, actually, we've messed up at our end. Here is a massive tax bill that we can take straight from your salary.
Yeah, or a small one, because sometimes a little bit of money in an ISA is the only savings that people do.
Exactly. What I mean is massive, as in like unexpected, because it's several years in a row, right? And so that's a real danger here.
And in the meantime, anecdotal evidence that the rich people are leaving London. Here we are, a mega rich, the billionaire Lakshmi Mittal, to leave Britain after the crackdown on non-dom residents. You're smiling. I can see you're smiling already. This is like the VAT on private schools argument, because these were the announcements that were made pre the election, weren't they, both of these?
So I think we should pause just a little bit and breathe, because when you get into the detail of this story, it's not a story coming directly from him. It's a source quote from a friend. And then when he's asked if it's true he's definitely leaving, he says he's going to make a decision at some point in the next year. So it's quite a leap to get to that headline, I think, to say he's definitely off and it's all a consequence of the non-dom decision, which, of course, let's remember, was first taken by Jeremy Hunt when he was the Conservative Chancellor and then kept together by Rachel Reeves. And this man is the seventh wealthiest man in Britain, I think, the last time that they counted, and his fortune stands at £14.9 billion, according to the Financial Times. So there will be a concern about somebody of this degree of wealth, moving his wealth from the United Kingdom to perhaps the UAE or to Italy or Switzerland, as the story suggests. But quite what that means to the Exchequer's balance sheet is not so clear-cut.
OK, watch that, the steps out the door, I suppose, is how I would describe it. Coming up next, though, can the coalition of the willing actually enforce a ceasefire in Ukraine? We'll focus on that next.
I'm Dominic Waghorn, Sky's International Affairs Editor, covering a world that seems to be unravelling. War, unrest, revolutions.
It's not his country, it's ours.
They have succeeded for the first time in their country's history in removing a leader from power.
No freedom!
Sky News, the full story first. There was fighting here, but there's clearly now a lull, and they're using it to bring up more ammunition. This is a mass exodus in which Russia is hemorrhaging some of its brightest and its best. According to the local weather channel, there have been more than 2,500 lightning strikes and flash flooding, all on top of this week's lethal tornado. What stays with you most in this job is some of the people you meet. What is your worst fear about what the Russians want to do to the children?
They're just boosting demographics by stealing young people.
Would you like to take the opportunity, Mr. President, on Sky News to invite Barack Obama to come here? Mr. Trump, are you running for president? Can you confirm it?
We're going to take a look, a very serious look.
On that day, we saw your fighters killing women, killing children. Was that a mistake? Did you go too far? You couldn't control your fighters? The full force of the state is being used to crush any protest. Free wherever you get your news. It's half an hour now past the deadline that Hamas issued, and we've now seen a third barrage of rockets coming in.
Another alarm. The mood here is jittery and nervous.
We're seeing the world get more and more divided, and it's our job to try to make sense of it all.
Premier League run Running is live on NBC and Peacock as City Pride is on the line with a pair of iconic derbies.
It doesn't get any better.
April 3rd, it's a London derby. Chelsea.
Beautiful goal from Citizen.
Spurs.
What a game!
April 6th,
Brace yourself, Manchester, for the mother of all derbies.
United.
In the place!
City. The Premier League Run-In is live on NBC.
We've got your Sunday mornings covered. From the front page and the sounds of the streets to the voices of the people who make the major calls and big picture politics beyond Westminster. We'll put you at the heart of our story.
I'm ready. Are you?
Join me, Trevor Phillips, Sunday mornings on Sky News.
We're rolling.
Welcome to the world.
Our new podcast, starting now. It's very exciting. Every week, we'll be reporting from the world's trouble spots.
We get to hold those in positions of power accountable, and we get to ask the questions that the audience, the listeners, want to know about.
And that's why it is so important that people tune in, come along for the road, come along for the journey. It'll be fun.
Well, welcome back. You are watching the press preview with me once again, Henry Hill and Kezia Dugdale. Welcome back to both of you. First of all, let's go to the eye then, shall we? The UK sends military chiefs to Kyiv as Trump goes after Ukraine's gas, oil and metals, part of this deal, which is quite extraordinary. Anyway, big meeting today, the Coalition of the Willing, where most people seem unwilling. I think that's the point we're at, isn't it?
Basically, there seems to be just a gulf. If you're a European country, you are one of two things. Either you're Poland and you have the troops to send and you don't want to send them, or you're Britain and you don't have the troops to send, but you're really, really keen to get your troops in the country. And ne'er the two shall meet. So where we seem to be circling towards, the Prime Minister's already backtracked quite a lot on his initial proposals. There was initially talk of boots on the ground, then there was talk of actually it's going to be more of a naval and air deployment. And now it's, what we see here is that there's going to be a reassurance force, which actually sounds so satirical, which will be deployed the day after any peace deal is reached, which is better than nothing. But on the other hand, it does absolutely nothing to get Ukraine closer to a peace deal. And Vladimir Putin is using, ironically, the sort of puff belligerency of Starmer and Macron to play out the negotiations and say, look, we're being provoked by Europe. We don't want any European troops. So I feel really sorry, mostly for Zelensky's government.
Yeah, I mean, Putin's spoken about that tonight. He said he'd like to work with Europe, but Europe's being inconsistent, and then suggested that Ukraine could be placed under a form of temporary administration to allow for new elections and the signature of key accords with the aim of reaching a settlement, i.e. get Zelensky out again, a form of temporary administration. It's another way of effectively coercively controlling Ukraine, is it not? And this idea that Trump's minerals deal would give Washington control over Ukraine's natural resources, as well as restoring Russia's lucrative gas pipeline operations. The winner again is President Putin in many of these discussions.
Yes, with this side hustle for President Trump without any need to back it up with any security from an American perspective. I think there's two things about this story which is interesting to note. The first is that the visit to Ukraine will involve British, French and German officials. So there's a sense there that Germany haven't been completely written out of the equation, although we know the issue is domestically much more difficult in Germany for politicians to sell to their voters. And separately to that, we have Keir Starmer saying once again, reassuring MPs that were they ever to be in a position of deploying the military, it wouldn't happen without a vote in Parliament. And I don't think there's any sense that vote would be lost, but just I think there's some lessons there about past military conflicts that Keir Starmer is keen not to repeat.
Yes, and just a little bit more coverage in the Metro. Russia warns of a bloodbath as UK and France order in the military, it says, is a shortcut way of describing it. And then a photograph on the front page of The Guardian. Paris summit, European leaders affirm their support for Ukraine. Just a very quick final sentence then.
Russia, ultimately, the problem that we have with deploying troops is that we do not have either the troops, the artillery, the production capacity or the will to lose the number of people we'd lose in a ground war, and Russia knows it.
OK. Henry, Kezia, thank you so much. See you for more in the 11. Let's take a look now at the weather.
A bright start and always a warm welcome. The weather sponsored by Qatar Airways.
Well, it will be cooler and more unsettled tomorrow with changeable conditions this weekend, leading to mostly fine and warm weather next week. So a showery start for most parts. Southeastern Britain, though, will see more general rain. That rain will mostly clear across central and southern England through the morning to leave most places there dry with sunny spells. Elsewhere, a mix of sunshine, blustery showers, some heavy thundery, snow on northern hills. Cooler than recently, strong winds in the north and west bringing the risk of coastal gales. Northern and western parts will see further showers through the afternoon, most frequent across Scotland, but there will be sunny spells too. Much of central and eastern England will avoid those showers.
A bright start and always a warm welcome. Qatar Airways sponsors the weather.
Sky News get the full story first.
Is this now all your territory?
Yeah. The battlefield is outside the barricades. We are in the middle of a forest, in a jungle really, and they're attempting to keep these men alive. I'm Stuart Ramsey, and I'm Sky's chief correspondent. It's really dangerous. Many people have died riding it.